Since I already have the background on this one, first thing I'm going to be doing is starting on the substrate system. For the nutrients, I empty out 7 root tabs. Then I add in some aquarium gravel that will help add extra room for beneficial bacteria. Moving it to the rear just creates a cleaner look in the front of the aquarium. Next, I spread out the root tab dust throughout the aquarium, trying to keep it as even as possible. I also sweep it away from the center of the aquarium so that the hardscape won't be covering up any of the nutrients. Next, I add in the sand layer, starting at the edges and moving slowly to keep all of the nutrients in place. The goals are to cap the nutrients, have enough depth for planting, as well as create a good space to build the hardscape off of. After leveling the sand, I then start on the hardscape. I want to keep this one simple, so I'm just using a few pieces of Cereus stone. That way I have ample room for all the plants later on. I use the stones to create a nice little retaining wall so that I can add more height into the background. I cap off the aquarium gravel with more sand and smooth it out to keep as clean a look as possible for this. Then I start adding in the epiphyte plants, Anubias congentus mini, Anubias nana petite, as well as Anubias nana paxang. I plant all the Anubias kind of randomly along the different lines in the stones, using the natural gaps as well as the ones that I created when building the rock wall. I secure all of the plants with a cyanoacrylate superglue gel, adding a glob and then holding them on there for about 5 to 10 seconds. With the first plants going in, you can really begin to see how amazing this will look when it's all finished. All of these different Anubias are very easy to grow plants, and while they may stay small, we'll add a bunch of detail into the aquarium. If you're enjoying the video so far, please do like and subscribe. I also use some of the Anubias as shade for the stones to minimize algae growth. I'm using a cyanoacrylate superglue for all of the plants here, because the moment it touches water, it becomes completely inert and therefore non-toxic to all the fish and shrimp in here. I also focus on the direction in which I'm planting these so that they don't grow into each other, instead away, covering the rocks. Once I have all the Anubias in, I add a couple more pieces of Bucephalandra for even more color, as well as some more variations in texture. Once I have all the epiphyte plants added in, I mist them thoroughly to prevent them from drying out. Next, I add in the water. I make sure to do this slowly so I don't disturb all of the nutrients in the bottom of the substrate. Once the foreground is completely soaked, I start planting. I'm using 2 tissue culture cups of microsort, focusing them around the hardscape to create a nice bushy effect. It's a slow-growing plant, but once established, should easily cover the foreground of the aquarium. Once the foreground is finished, I add in more water, bringing it to the height of the next plants that I will be adding in. For the background planting, I start by adding Rotala atra in the left side. Then on the right side, I add in Rotala indica green as well as Rotala narrowleaf red, with the final plant being Micranthium umbrisorum. Once I'm finished adding in the stem plants, I then fill it the rest of the way up so I can use a net to capture out all of the dead leaves as well as detritus that has floated to the surface. And finally, I add in Java fern that I had glued to stones. Once the planting is finished, I squeeze out a dirty filter sponge into the aquarium. This adds a bunch of beneficial bacteria as well as some microorganisms into the ecosystem. I siphon off the layer of mulm that had settled in the foreground, then I topped off the water. And the last plant I add are a few pieces of Salvinia minima. And finally, I catch some cherry shrimp, adding them into the aquarium with a few more pieces of Salvinia. Once I have the light fitted, I add the lid. And the most important step of all, enjoy. Thank you all for watching. Please do like and subscribe, and I will see everybody in the next one.